Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Marketing Matters. I'm Sarah Touchstone, Landmark Title's social media marketing strategist and educator. I get the pleasure of bringing you guys Marketing Matters every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Arizona time. The month of April has been all about exploring the exclusive tools that are available for you only through Landmark Title. So today, this week, we are talking about Altos Market Reports. And I've brought Jessica on. She is our amazing brain of all things Altos. She comes directly from Altos. So I like bringing her on because she is very entrenched in all the functions of Altos. And when it comes to guiding your clients through data, there is not a better program out there than Altos. So Jessica, I'm going to hand it over to you. You have full screen sharing abilities, and let's go ahead and get into exploring Altos Market Reports.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thanks for setting aside the time today, guys. I'm going to share my screen. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. And I'm going to minimize our faces here. All right. Welcome. I'm Jessica Lucky, and I am the success coach at Altos Research. I've been with Altos Research for about 15 years, so I've got quite a bit of experience, and I am really passionate about what it is that we provide and super excited to share with you today. What is Altos? What are these grand reports that we speak of, right? Well, Altos is a data company with the goal in mind to answer the question, how's the market now? How's the market now, and what key indicators can we provide and to gauge where we're going? So it's really, really important if you think about what question do you get asked all the time? How's the market, right? It's one of the number one questions asked when you say you're in real estate. And so that is our goal, is to answer the question, hey, how's the market? But we want to make sure that you're the expert, right? So not only do we want to answer the question, how's the market? We want to be able to provide leading indicators of change so that you can gauge when that change takes place and be ahead of the game to be able to move forward and educate your clients. So again, Altos is a data company with that goal in mind. Now, in addition, we want to take the complex data and put it into an easy to understand format. And honestly, that's one of the key things that I love about these Altos reports. Yes, like she said, I'm into the data. I've been around for a while, right? And so I can speak to the reports, but I will say that it is awesome to be able to have intelligent conversations about data, especially when that's not your forte. It's not something that you really like to do, right? So one of the things that we do is we take this complex data. We think about, okay, how do people absorb this type of information? I always joke if I go out in the street and say, hey, do you want to look at some market statistics? Not everybody gets all excited, right? So we understand that everybody absorbs it differently. And so when you look at the data, when you look at our reports, there is rhyme and reason to the layout that we provide. We want to make sure that we provide the numbers for our engineers, but we have visual cues throughout the report for those visual folks. And then if you've got people like my mom who are like, you know what, far too intimidating. I don't want to look at numbers. I don't want to look at the pictures. Just tell me like it is. We have narrative that's thrown in as well. And what you're seeing right now is a document that we have, and I'm happy to share. It is our Altos Explainer, and I call it my cheat sheet. This first page is a high-level overview of the components that make up the market report, something that we are going to talk about today. So this document kind of just reiterates, and hey, what did she say? Things like the market action index, the market profile, the narrative that I talked about. We have charts for those visual cues, and then market segments allowing us to dive in deeper. So this document is really helpful to just, oh yeah, that's what it's all about. But in addition to that, I always like to start here before diving into a report, because these are all the statistics, the definitions of the statistics and why we care. Super important, right? Because reality is, when you're working with your clients, they're not going to ask questions about what the statistics mean. It's human nature to not want to admit that they don't know. And it's really unreasonable, but that's human nature, right? And so you can proactively answer the questions that they're never going to ask by just providing this document. But it's also great for you. And some of the things that I want to talk about that regarding the report is those key indicators, right? So you get this report. So again, we want to answer the question, how's the market? We've got these great market reports. We focus on the 100% active market in order to answer the question, how's the market right now? Instead of the question, hey, how was the market when a property sold 4 to 6 weeks ago? Okay. So when we dive into the report, we'll talk about the fact that it is 100% active data. Okay. We update it weekly, right? So that it's always fresh content that you have, staying on top of what's happening, what's changing week after week. But the goal is just to keep an eye on the key leading indicators of change. And in a world like today, where it's a little bit chaotic, people are feeling uncomfortable, change happens quickly. So what are those key indicators? So I'm sharing this document to be able to proactively say what those indicators are so that when we go and look at a report, you can gauge, hey, where have we been? Where are we at now? And where are we headed? So when you think about the fact that all of the data within the reports is active, 100% active, one of the key leading indicators of change is the percent price decreased. What does that mean? Percent price decreased. So of the active inventory, what is the percentage of that inventory that's had to take some sort of a price reduction since being put on the market? Okay, well, that's great if we give that percentage, but if you don't know what is normal, what is typical, you can't really gauge where you stand. And so I stop here to say, hey, if you get your hands on this document, take a highlighter, print it, and highlight that entire segment, the percent price decreased. Why? Because it states that 35% is considered typical or normal. So if that is the basis there, and we give you 13 weeks to look back so you know where you've been, what direction is that line going, right? And so we'll take a look at that, but know that 35% is typical, normal. Now, the other key leading indicator to keep an eye on that is unique to Altos is the percent relisted. And percent relisted is unique for us. Why? Because we track list to pending. So absorbed for us is pending and contingent. So what does that mean? That means we are going to capture when things fall out of contract or get a little bit muddy, right? So when it gets absorbed and falls out of escrow, it gets relisted. If a buyer backs out of a contract, it gets relisted. If a seller decides, you know what, my agent's not working for me, so I'm going to go down the street, it gets relisted. And as that starts to happen frequently in a short period of time, you'll start seeing a cooling effect in the market. What's typical? Take a highlighter. 10% or less is typical. So when we go and we look at that number, you can gauge where you've been, where you're at now, and where we're headed. Okay, so super valuable document here. I will go ahead and send an email off to Sarah after. She probably has a copy of it, but this is something to definitely get your hands on, just as a guide for yourself, but also to provide to your clients as well. Okay, so now we will switch gears. Again, Altos provides these great market reports. Okay, what does the coverage look like? Well, we provide reports at countywide. What does that mean? It's going to take into account all active inventory for every city and zip code within the county. So that's super broad. Now, I am a huge advocate for localized data, right? So we go from county, which can be very valuable at some situations, but when you're working with individual clients, you'll probably want to be a little bit more localized. So yes, we have reports at citywide as well. So we're looking at Phoenix. Now, Phoenix, when it has no zip code beside it, is taking into account all active inventory for every zip code within Phoenix and pulling it together. So that's going to be pretty broad. I live in California, south of San Francisco, San Jose. And if someone asks me, hey, how's the market in San Francisco? I'm going to look at them a little funny and say, well, what part? Every zip code within San Francisco can behave differently in the market. You've got crazy town over here. You've got high end over here. They're different. And so it's really important to be able to dive down even deeper. And so we also provide reports for zip code specific. So the difference between Phoenix citywide and the Phoenix zip code specific is it's only going to take into account the active inventory for that said zip code. Okay, so you will be able to identify the fact that, hey, the data is different. And by fine-tuning your conversation with your clients, you can help educate them, keep them in the know as to what's happening in areas that that's most important to them, whether they're buying or selling, right? What can they expect for their money? How quickly is the inventory moving? How quickly can I imagine we sell this house? Okay. So it's really important that you drill down into those individual zip codes. But that doesn't mean there's not a use case for countywide, for city. And this is a great place to start. If you've got buyers who are like, hey, I really want to live in Phoenix, I'm not quite sure where yet, use this. You can help set the expectation, determine the budget that they have in mind. What do they have as far as requirements for their family, as square footage, beds, baths? And then you can drill down into various zip codes to find out what zip code would be best for them based on what they need and what their budget is. Okay. So again, county, city, zip code specific. Now, looking at the report, it is an all-inclusive report. So you've got this unique URL that is landmark, that is Phoenix, Arizona 85008. Okay. Now, it's all-inclusive, but we do segregate from single-family homes to condo townhouses. So when you're looking at the initial report, you'll see that houses is what is selected, right? That is the default. So the information associated to this, the inventory, is single family homes. That means that you can click on condos and all of it changes and updates to reflect the data associated to condo townhouses. Now, the way to think about this is single unit shared wall. We don't have multifamily. So it must be single unit shared wall versus no shared wall. Okay. Now there is rhyme and reason to the way that this report is laid out, right? So you'll see here, this first third is a summary based on what's happening in the market for 85008. Now this will say, hey, how's the market? Is it a buyer's market or seller's market? And how much so? And how's the market today compared to this time last month? That is the answer that you get by looking at the summary. The second portion is historical data. We provide data for the last 5 years. The beginning of COVID is right here. So it's really wild to see the change that has happened from when COVID hit to where we're at now. Now, you get multiple statistics as well. Okay. So historical data allows you to see how things have changed over a big, significant time period. And then below that third section is that portion where you can help set expectations. The market segments, where we divide the inventory from most expensive to least expensive into quarters so that you can see the nature of the market change between each of these segments. Okay, what can someone expect for X amount? And how quickly is inventory moving? Okay, so there's a lot of great stuff that goes on within the report, but hopefully that helps really break it down. Summary, historical data, more detailed, setting expectations. Now looking at this, you'll see that you've got the market action index. This is the heart of the report. This is what Altos started with, where we wanted to answer the question, hey, how's the market? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market, and how much so? So we created a proprietary algorithm called the Market Action Index. And proprietary algorithm is just a fancy term for private equation. So I can't disclose all that makes up that algorithm, but I can say that it is a series of supply and demand statistics tied up in a bow, right? And the way that you want to look at it is every equation has a weighted end result. And our data team determined that 30 as that weighted end result represents a balanced market. And so when you're looking at this image and you see that white line represents that balance. Anytime the weighted result is greater than 30, it will favor a seller. Anytime it's less than 30, it will favor the buyer. So that you can quickly, at a glance, answer the question, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Well, it's a slight seller's advantage, right? But take it one step further. It also answers the question, hey, how's the market today compared to this time last month? How? This gray is a running 30 days back. And so because there is a gap between the black ticker here and that gray, that is indicating that it is hotter than it was this time last month. So at a glance, I can see that yes, it is a slight seller's market, a little hotter than it was last month, all by one image. And you can change it by clicking on condos, right? And it'll update. Does a little dance. No real change since this time last month, but it's still a slight seller's advantage. Go to Phoenix, and at a glance, you can see that it's a slight seller's advantage. There's a little fine hair here that means that slightly hotter than it was this time last month. Look at condos. It'll do the dance. And almost a balanced market at a 32, okay? And a little hotter than it was last month. Go to the county, same idea. So you can see that you can go from one report to another report and quickly get to the answer to the question, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Okay, so this is super valuable. This answers that question. Now, the real-time market profile is the why. Why does this reflect as a slight seller's advantage? So you've got things like median list price. Great. That's pretty straightforward. It's taking into consideration this total active inventory for single family homes within this zip code. Great. So what the heck is median price of new listings? Remember, we update these reports weekly. So new listings come onto the market week after week. So as of the last week, what was the total new listings coming onto the market? That is the data set. And this is the median of that data set. So the way you want to think about it is, okay, great. We update it weekly. We don't do it daily. That would be nearly impossible. So we want to go ahead, do it weekly. We stop capture on Friday, process the data over the weekend, publish on Sunday afternoon so that you have fresh content come Monday morning, right? Great. Well, since the previous capture, we've had new listings. And of those new listings, here's the median list price. Okay. Price per square foot, pretty straightforward. Now, average days on market versus median days on market, super important in my opinion. Right? Average days on market is the go-to. That's been the go-to over years. In fact, I've been around a long time and we used to only provide average days on market. We did that until inventory took a huge nosedive a few years ago, okay? Where even in that state, there were stale pieces of inventory, which would sit on the market and accrue days. And it really got out of whack, right? So those stale pieces of inventory would indicate that that was super inflated. So we threw in median days on market. It does a much better job of really representing what's currently happening in the market. But keep them both because it tells a story. When there's a gap between the two, that is indicating that there are stale pieces of inventory. Okay. Now, as a buyer, would you prefer to know 76 or 46 as the days on market? I need to know it's 46. That means I need to move quicker, right? And so that is what makes it so valuable. So keep an eye on this, but when there is a huge shift between the two or a gap between, that's a story and it's worth telling. Now, the next one is really important. It's one of our key leading indicators of change. And I'm going to share with you a couple of ideas of why this particular statistic can be so helpful. But one is remembering what's typical, 30, 35%. Now we're sitting at 52%. Are we super concerned? Not so much. Why? Because a few weeks ago, back at the beginning of March, it was 65%. 65% of the active inventory was having to take a price reduction since being put on the market. Okay. So it was high, but it's come down and it's leveled out. Okay. So you'll see as this has come down, this has gone up. So the heat of the market has ticked up. So you can see that there is a correlation there, right? So you'll notice that you've got your latest and greatest, but you also have 13 weeks to look back. It's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So where are you now? Where have you been? And where are you headed? That's what these reports provide. So 52%, although still a little high than what we want, but it's better than what it was. And so a use case for price decrease is working with your sellers. When you have a new seller, right, a listing presentation, or even after the fact, you're going to want to share this report and say, hey, listen, as of right now, of the active inventory, 52% of that inventory has had to take some sort of a price reduction. Yeah, I know it's a little high. We want to make sure that we price the home correctly and we don't have to participate in this percentage. But I'm going to supply a report like this to you on a regular basis. I want you to pay special attention to this percentage. We want to make sure it stays the same or goes down. If it were to continue to climb over time, we may have to come back together and talk about the price of your home. It's huge. You've just removed the emotion from that because oftentimes they don't follow what's happening in the market. And the opportunity arises to have to take that, not opportunity, but it comes up where you have to take a price reduction and all of a sudden it's a shock and awe moment. Whose fault is it? There's a lot of finger pointing, right? When it's not your fault, it's the market making the suggestion that, hey, we have to take a price reduction. So if you go in armed and you keep your clients informed about what's happening in the market, you don't have to worry about that emotional conversation. So even if you just use the reports for that one single purpose, it's great. So take that into consideration with the price decreased. Okay. Now the relisted, that's the other key leading indicator, right? Well, what is typical? 10% or less. Where are we at? 6%. Where have we been? It's been dangling here for some time. So do we have any concern about the impact of the relist? No, right? In fact, this is down and the heat of the market is up. So median days is dropping, heat of the market's going up, right? And now we've got inventory. So inventory just started to tick back up. So we'll see if that is a continual pattern, right? This is where we've been over the last 13 weeks, and this is where we're going, okay? Now, market action index, you see it here. Again, this is 30 days back, and then you have all the way back 3 months, right? It was 41, and we're headed in that direction again. So was this just seasonality, right? And so hopefully this makes sense of the real-time market profile and you have a little bit more clarity, but I will say this price decrease can be super helpful, okay? And so consider using this data when communicating with your sellers. Keeping them in the know is really, really a great thing to do, okay? It also helps alleviate a lot of the anxiety, okay? Now, the next segment, right? We've got our summary, we've done a good job, we've got all that handled. We come down now to our center chart. This is our historical data. This is 5 years. It's a long time, but a lot has happened, right? We provide a 7-day and a 90-day. Remember, we do the update every week. Super important, right? Well, it's really noisy over 5 years. So we included a 90-day trend, which is that 13 weeks averaged out week after week. Okay, so you can deselect the noise and focus on just the trend. What has been the activity over the last 5 years? Look at the diamonds to represent that year over year. This is where we're at now. This is where we were this time last year, the year before, no real change. Then you go here, okay? Great. Now, if you took a ruler and a straight and a pencil, that's pretty great, okay? With some fluctuations in between, right? So great, you have that. Well, you're not stuck with just median list price. What if you wanted to look at inventory? So inventory, look at this. Okay, look how low it got. I remember, I don't know how many of you guys were around dealing with real estate at the time, but man, inventory took a nosedive, right? And so here we are. And then you see this uptick. This was super uncomfortable, right? This is also when interest rates were starting to climb. So this is a story in itself, right? Change this to market action index. What happened during COVID? Turn off that 7-day and you can see the roller coaster ride. Okay. Here's where you were, right? When COVID started. This is where you're at now. Okay. So every single chart tells a story. It's up to you to determine what story is most important to tell, right? And now we take this out. Great. Well, why have that 7-day if it's so noisy? Well, it's awesome because it provides leading indicators of change. You will see the momentum in that 7-day before the trend kicks in. Things like ticking up and ticking down. Right now, it says median list price has just leveled out. Is that the case? Let's look. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's continuing to level out. Okay. Now, if we go and turn this off and you look at inventory and all of the other ones, you will see the momentum in that 7-day before the trend kicks in, allowing you to be in the know before everybody else, right? You can see that change occur. Okay. And so that is super helpful. And you're not stuck with looking at 5 years either. If you want to come down to the timeline, hold down your mouse and drag it, you can. Just make sure that that box is selected and drag it back. You want to go back 1 year, go right before that dot. 2 years, great. Okay, let go. And you can zoom in and get more detail. Okay. Now, in addition, you can break it down by segments, and it's super important, right? To dive down and have more thoughtful conversations with your individual clients. Click the market segments, and you will have now 4 lines. What we do is we take the active inventory, we list it from most expensive to least expensive, and then divide it by 4 so that each one of these lines has the same amount of inventory, and then we determine the median. So the blue line will always represent the most expensive 25% of properties. The red line will always represent the least expensive 25% of properties. And although it might be difficult for you to see, it is 1.1 for that median of most expensive 25%. And then 413 for the least expensive 25%. I can guarantee you the nature of the market is going to be different between all the different segments. So if you're working with a client who's only interested in the luxury market, the most expensive 25%, you can turn off the noise and focus on just what's happening in that particular segment, where prices are on the rise, where we can come here and we can look at median days on market, knowing that this is the trend, that the trend is saying 43 days. How does that compare to the least expensive 25% of properties? Okay. Which actually have a higher one, but a more drastic drop in those days on market. Okay. What about the market action index? We rerun the algorithm on each of those segments, which is huge because as a whole, it's 37. Okay. When you take into consideration all active inventory, but when we rerun it on these 2 segments, you can see that it's very different. That the least expensive 25% is actually at a 61. That is a very hot seller's market. Okay. Whereas the most expensive 25% is sitting at 37, right? What you see here. So that insight can be really great. Imagine if you're looking at an area that states here a slight buyer's market, but when you dissect it and drill down, there might be 1 or 2 segments that fall within a seller's market. And wouldn't that be great to know? And that's what this chart allows you to see. Okay, so this can be really valuable and every area is different. So definitely cruise around, take a look. What story do you find most interesting? Okay, and so again, you've got this chart that gives you all of this data. You can zoom in, you can deselect, select. There's a lot that you can do with the center chart. Okay, now we've talked about those segments. So now here we have the market segments at the 7-day, the weekly update. This is going to be super valuable for setting expectations. And I thought that this was really incredible because you'll see that you can see the difference between them just on how quickly things are moving. Which segment has the most competition? This allows you to help steer your clients to making better decisions when it comes to real estate. For example, if you're talking to my husband who loves to get ready, and our budget is 400,000, what can I expect for my money? But how quickly do I need to take action? Well, if you look at this, the bottom segment represents that 400,000. I can expect 1,000 to 1,100 square feet, a small lot size compared to others on the market, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, an older home at 73 years. Okay, but here's the key. Here's the new pieces of inventory coming onto the market, absorbed, pending contingent, but look how many days it's taking from list to pending, 14 days, 2 weeks. He's got to move quick, right? We have to take action now. There is no getting ready to get ready. So this can be super helpful. Setting the expectations is huge too, because if I use that as my benchmark at 400,000 and I have 2 teenage boys who are far larger than I am, do you think 1,100 square feet is going to work? No, my 1,500 square feet isn't working. So if I make that statement saying, oh, okay, that's great, but I need more square footage. Well, what do? You can work with your client, use the search functionality to go to a neighboring city or a different zip code to see if you can find something that's going to meet their budget and their family's requirements. That's huge, right? And if they need more time or whatever the case might be, you can help them just by using the market segments table. Okay. So hopefully that helps. It's such a big deal. I know where I'm at, I'm in the Bay Area, right? And so in my zip code, we've got $12 million homes and then we have $2 million homes. What this states isn't necessarily the reality for my neighborhood. My neighborhood happens to be on the bottom end, right? So in that bottom segment, moving in 7 days, right? And this says something completely different. So this is a great summary of sorts, but when you have the opportunity to have those one-on-one meetings with your clients, definitely take advantage and give the appropriate feedback, give the appropriate information, help steer them in the right direction. Okay. So hopefully this is a good overview of the data itself. Now, looking at the report, how can you incorporate it into your business outside of these one-on-one conversations that you might have with your clients? Consider taking this and incorporating it into your daily business, things like open houses, neighborhood walks, direct mail, listing presentations, in which case you're going to want to have it in print form, right? So every report that you receive from Landmark, it has the possibility of being converted to a PDF. Go up to share. You can convert it to a single page PDF or a full report PDF. The single page PDF is great for listing. No, well, it's great for listings too, but it is really great for the open houses, neighborhood walks, door knocking, networking events, those types of things. If it is an open house, you already know the price point. Where do they fit within the segments? Print the report, scroll down, or when it's printed, take a highlighter and highlight the segment that that home falls within. You can talk about the nature of the market for that home and not just the zip code. Because when people go through an open house, first they'll try to avoid you like the plague. But if you say, hey, I have some information about the nature of the market, show them the report, give them the specifics, you may not find your next buyer, but you could potentially have seller leads because you're able to bring to the table something that others are not, right? The insight. And so consider that, right? So again, up under share, convert to a single page PDF. The full report is a 6-page. Great. Bring that to your listing presentation. It will be amazing because all of the narrative is added to every single chart that is printed. It's something that they can understand versus all the other stuff that they're given where it's really complicated. So remove that one complicated thing and provide them a report that they can understand. And then lastly, you've got your social media. There's no configuration necessary. If you're on your computer and you click on Facebook, it's going to go to your Facebook. You decide on what image you want to share. It's active on click of the image, loads the latest version of that report. So it's something of value that you can add to your social media, right? So all of that is possible under the share function here. Okay. All right. So I've done a lot of talking. I've gone over that 30 minutes a little bit, but hopefully you feel excited. If you've not been using the reports, I'm hoping that you are now more inclined to do so, that you have various ways that you can incorporate it into your business. Don't forget about this search function, right? Don't forget about those one-on-one meetings that you have with clients, giving them valuable information so that they can make better decisions and feel better about what they're doing. Right now, there's a lot of turmoil out there in the world, right? So even if you've got previous buyers who are feeling that anxiety of, did I do the right thing? They can choose to walk blindly, or you can share with them the data and tell them, hey, how do you overcome some of the anxiety? Just follow the data, be in the know. You've got access to a great tool. It's just up to you to use it and tell the stories that you feel are most important. Okay. So if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Thanks, Jessica. As always, such amazing, amazing information. I'm going to go ahead. If you guys have any questions, please utilize that chat window or the question and answer. As you think about it, I'm going to wrap up with just a couple of other classes that we have coming up in the next month or so. So hopefully you guys can see my screen again. And we're going to cover what we have coming up. Of course, you can always find all of these under our event page on our Landmark Title Assurance Agency website at ltaag.com/events. And we have a couple more great tools coming up the rest of this month. Next week, we have Title Pro 24/7. That is where we go ahead and we get in and we create farms and get any information about any properties that you're looking at or want to be looking at for your clients. And then on April 30th, we have Certified coming on to talk about how we keep your clients safe from wire fraud using their services. So you're going to definitely want to hop on those two webinars as well. Jessica, we did get a question. How do we access the tool and what is the cost?
So you, right, do they reach out to you to get the report?
They do. Yes. Yes. And then,
So
oh, go ahead.
go ahead. So the cost, there's two, right? So through you, I don't think anything. Okay.
Free. Yes. So I don't know why I fielded that to you. I'm like, Jessica, here, answer this. Oh, wait, hold on. That's for me to answer. It is free. It is free for our clients. All you have to do is reach out to your business development managers. We can get you signed up. And then the really cool thing about it too is that you'll tell them, what area you want, what zip code you want, but then you can get in and then you can customize it as well on your end. So really, really cool, really easy to use, and you can get so much great data from it. So free. Just reach out to your business development managers. And then today, yeah, look at that, guys. I am headed up as soon as we get off this call. I'm headed up to Prescott. Yay!
You're like, oh, I forgot. Just kidding.
Oh, trust me. I did not forget. But I'm like, yes. Today,
Those days.
I will be at the Berkshire Hathaway office in Prescott doing a Reels for Real Estate class. Video marketing is huge. So if you're up in the Prescott area, head on over. It is in Berkshire Hathaway, but it's open to any and all real estate agents. So you can just pop in, you can reach out to Raylan, or you can let me know if you would like to come and attend this. This is one of my favorite classes to do because at the end, it's one of those where I'm like, guess what? You guys get to be on your phones for the entire class. And we have, usually we all create content by the end of this class. So it's super fun. And then next week on Tuesday, we have a continuing education class, compensation employment agreements. This is going to give you 3 hours of commissioner standards. And this is going to be at Bison Ventures in Scottsdale from 9 a.m. until noon. Reach out to Hannah if you want to register for that class. That's coming up just next Tuesday. And then next Wednesday, there is a class about the benefits of reverse mortgage. This one is going to be over in Buckeye from 9 until 10:30. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can benefit your clients, and reverse mortgage is something that is available for seniors. So if you work with that kind of group, if you need to learn more about it, and you're in the West Valley area, reach out to Patty and get registered for that class as well. And then, of course, we always have our fantastic home tours every month. Moon Valley is third Thursdays at 8:30. And then Biltmore Luxury is the fourth Wednesday at 9 a.m. So if you ever want to attend either of those, maybe get some Reels content for your social media, those are amazing. And that is it for us today, guys. Thank you, of course, to Jessica for coming on. She always shares just the best. It's such great data. It's so accessible. It's so understandable. And she really does. She does a great job of it. So thank you, Jessica. And of course, thank you to our business development management team. Some of them are on today as well. So they were really excited to be on and get some more information about Altos too. Beth, Hannah, Keith, Michael, Patty, Renee, and Raylan up in Prescott. They are here to help you implement all of the tools and the techniques that we talk about here on Marketing Matters into your business. And they are your resource for getting signed up for Altos. If you're not already working with one of them, reach out to me and I will make the introduction for you. And then, of course, thank you to Landmark Title for allowing us to bring you great content like Altos Market Reports. Every single Wednesday, 10 a.m. Arizona time, we have 7 offices across the valley to service all of your title and escrow needs, as well as 1 up in Prescott and 2 in Nevada. So please think of us on your next contract. We'd love to service you and your clients. And that is it for us today, guys. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you for having me. Have a good afternoon, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.